Welcome to this video. This video is going to be about installing Visual Studio Code with the WPILib extension. Visual Studio Code is what's known as an IDE, an integrated design environment, that they have decided to use in WPILib. So without getting too deep into it, let's just say that's a program that helps you to program. As we go forward, you'll see what it is. Go to Google and type in WPILib, and hit enter. And that will bring up the website on the left. We'll choose Installation Guide. And the nice thing about the Installation Guide here is that it's a lot of documentation with pretty pictures. It'll walk you through what we are going to go through. So I'm going to have it on the left here. As we go forward, you can kind of see what it is. This has a lot of information, and again, basically it's going to be the same thing. But the first thing we're actually going to do is we're going to go all the way back up to the top and install. Now this is only going to do Windows 10. We're not going to touch Macs or anything else. So sorry about that, but that's what we got for now. At the top right, you'll see where it says GitHub, and that's you see me doing Open New Window. GitHub is kind of a source control. It's a place, it's a repository where you can put your code and share your code out. It's where teams can work together collaboratively. And WPILib uses it to expose the code, the documents, and the actual files that we need to install. So they have a lot of information on all the things they've changed, which is really nice. We're not going to talk about hashes here. That's a whole different issue. But we're going to go down to where we see the ISO, WPILib to Windows 64 ISO. And we're going to save that ISO, because that's what I have, Windows 10 64-bit computer. Now an ISO file is a specific file. It's kind of like a zip file, if you know what those are, but it's designed so that it can actually be mounted. And when it is mounted, it becomes a virtual drive with folders and files inside of it. So we're actually going to install from the ISO. We're going to mount the ISO in Windows 10, and then we're going to open it up, and we're going to run the executable that will install the WPILib extension and the Visual Studio Code program. So here's the process. We're downloading it. It's rather large. Through the power of video editing, we will quickly get to the end of it. All right, there it is. Now I'm going to open up in the folder, drag the folder over so you can see what I have. And it literally, as you can see there, it says the same file that's an ISO. Now in order to get it to work, I have to right-click on this file, and I choose Mount, the first one. I'm not going to burn it to disk. And what it'll do is it will actually create, like I said, a virtual drive. In this case, we're going to use the E drive, which is where it is. And you notice that there is the executable, the WPILib installer.exe, that we need to install. Now the documentation on the left is a little out of date because we're not doing beta anymore. But pretty much other than that, the pictures are spot on. So when I double click this, it is going to launch the installer, and surprise, surprise, it looks very much the same. We click on Start, just like the red arrow says, and we're going to do Download VSCode for single install. Top left choice of those four big buttons. And the reason is that will install Visual Studio Code and will also put into it the WPILib extension that we need. So we're going to click on that, it's going to run it, and then it's going to give us the choice next. We're going to choose Install for all users. You could unclick some of these like C++ compiler, but I would not bother. I just click Install for all users. That's easiest, and then it will go through this. Now, this may take a while. There's a lot of stuff to install that it's running. So again, we're going to pause for a moment, and through the power of video editing, automatically skip ahead until it is almost done, and we'll pick it up from there. Ah, there we go. That was amazing how that happens. So what this is doing is installing the IDE, and then adding to the IDE an extension that allows certain commands to be run that will enable you to do the thing better. Click on Done, next, and we're done. We can close this, but before we close this, what I recommend is that you eject your ISO drive. We'll forget about it later. But what that does is it dismounts the ISO and it closes out the virtual drive, just kind of easy. What it's done is it's installed two shortcuts, as you can see here. One of them is, believe it or not, a local copy of information. Now, this local copy is going to get out of date as we go forward, so I wouldn't rely on it too heavily. But it's nice to know you can get to it if you need to, just to browse through the stuff, if you can't get to the website for some bizarre reason. The other thing is the 2021 WPILib VSCode. And if you double click that, it will actually open up for you the Visual Studio Code IDE that I talked about. So you're pretty much done at this part. For the most part, you have successfully installed it. But there's a couple things here that I want to go through, to walk through why this is so useful. The top right, you'll see that sort of the W red, this WPILib. If you click that, it opens up what's called the command palette. And the command palette is not specific to WPILib. It's part of Visual Studio. And what it enables them to do is write code to run things to set up systems for you. So basically, they're taking a lot of the grunt work that you would have to do, and they're streamlining it. And all of those that affect WPILib will start with WPILib. You can see there's a whole bunch of them in here. Build robot code, cancel current stuff, etc. But we're going to go down to create new project and select that. We're going to choose a template. We're going to choose Java, not C++. We're going to choose a command robot. And then you're going to choose where you want to store it. Now, I always put things in repos. So C:\repos 4536 works for me. I have to give it a project name. I want it to kind of be unique, so I'm going to call it Matt M command robot. That works great for me. And then the final thing we want to put in the bottom is the team number, which for Minutebots is 4536. That's pretty much it. You can't see it on the screen because it cuts it down, but I just said create, and it says yes, reload, and it's going to reload the screen, and you will see automatically, thanks to that command on the command palette, it has created the scaffolding for a new robot, like that. We've just created the scaffolding. We installed the program and created the scaffolding for a new robot in less than 20 minutes, things that you would have had to do manually. And that's part of the strength of this, is there's a lot of stuff that is just kind of repetitive, but because you can do this, you can get to the really fun stuff. You're always going to have main robot, robot container. Those are just standards. Well, this way you can create it, you're done. Next time, intro to GitHub.